Welcome to Bent TV. I'm Andy McNamara. We are chatting again to Grace Lee, who is talking about her thesis, which is about people who transition from being identified male to female at a mature age, as in over 40.
Generally, yeah. The people who took part in this were generally sort of over 40 and as old as late 70s. So
late 70s.
Quite a big spread there.
Wow.
In terms of where they're at. And I mean, the thing that was interesting about that is they've led a life where they've been concealing this gender identity, and that interested me because so many people who are trans, from all the surveys and research that's been done around the world, we know that their mental health is generally poorer. They have a lot more depression, a lot more anxiety, and they have absolutely phenomenally disgraceful rates of suicide, and that is a big issue, and that's why looking for the around the mental health and how do people cope, I think is very important in being able to provide better services and better support to trans people in our community.
Right. So I understand the bigger mental health issues and the suicide because of all the shame and rejection that goes with
that's right. The stigmatisation and marginalisation. Yeah.
What are things that help reduce those risks of?
Well, probably, I mean, the big ones are finding an identity that you can share. So in part of the process, if you like, as you start to identify and see that you're trans, is being able to find other people who are like you.
So finding a community.
Yeah, finding a community. So that might be online. Now, there are a lot of, there's Facebook groups now that are specifically for trans. There are other internet sort of websites and so on. And of course, there's face-to-face sort of social groups. So, I mean, the people who participated in this study actually came from Seahorse Victoria, which you all know well, and I hope most of your viewers know well.
And they've supported Bent TV a lot for a long time.
They've done a great job, and they've done a great job for the trans community. Yes. They've been around for 40 years, which shows what a valuable organisation they must be. But that provides a link, it provides a place for people who identify as trans to go and meet with other people and realise that they're not isolated, they're not weird, that there are many others like them, and they can actually share those experiences amongst themselves. So that's a very important first step, is to find others who will support you within the community. And then also is really about finding allies. In other words, people who are not necessarily part of the trans community, but they might be members of your family, they might be your friends, they might be people at work, and that requires a bit of coming out, if not the total sort of, not necessarily transition, but starting to tell people, hey, actually, you've seen me like in this way for the last 40 years, but actually I've had this deep secret that I've been keeping under wraps all that time too.
Wow.
And again, when you get a good response from an ally, when somebody goes, oh, that must be so hard for you, that was really difficult. And quite often, and I found from my own personal experiences, people actually say they're quite privileged that I've shared this very important piece of information with them. And that makes the individual feel good as well. Okay. And that's very important to sort of break that sense of isolation.
And especially, I can really see when the people showing support are from outside the trans community. There's no vested interest. They're just totally saying, I understand you as a human being and I support you, and I think you're great and brave and wonderful.
And I will help you. I will help you and mentor you. I mean, one of the things that I was involved in at TGV was a Hay grant.
Victoria,
Transgender Victoria, the advocacy group here in Melbourne, was a Hay grant. So that's Healthy Equal Youth, which is part of Youth Affairs Victoria. So it's a government-funded project that we did to help build allyship amongst young, gender-diverse and same-sex attracted people in Victoria. And so that project, engaged young people around the state in various workshops, and they brought people along. They brought friends along. They brought relatives along. They brought, their coach from the footy club along. And these were all people who then would sort of learn how to work with gender diverse and same-sex attracted individuals, and how to provide them with the support that they need, understand some of the things that they might need, which again, reduces that sense of isolation and marginalisation and gives them much more resilience, which is all good for, good mental health and, for being successful in life.
Over the last 30, 40 years, I was just thinking about you saying Seahorse Victoria's been around for 40 years. The world has changed, definitely for gay people, but the world in terms of trans people's, the recognition and identity of trans people has just been blown from from nothing to something that's up front and central now.
Yeah, and it's, you know, like the way the media's represented trans people has changed dramatically in the last couple of years. You know, ABC, SBS are doing really positive sorts of documentaries.
Totally.
And obviously we are seeing, you know, important personalities coming out as trans and, you know, taking roles in TV shows and not only just sort of trans people, now we're seeing intersex people finding those sorts of roles, and actually bringing all those sorts of issues around identity and the sorts of challenges that trans people have to experience is getting a much wider audience. And I think by and large, it's, you know, that media is positive, and it's people are feeling sort of sympathetic towards trans people. And
it's
that's
changing
great.
the world. I think it's really changing the world. How fantastic! It must be so different being someone who is 16 and realises they're trans now compared to how it was for the people in your study.
You know, that's right. I mean, for me, I wouldn't have dared come out as trans at 16. And I read recently about a person who basically did that. And I mean, you know, they got shock therapy.
Wow.
That's the sort of thing, reparative therapies. You know, I would have been taken to the doctors and they would have said, there's something wrong with you and we're going to need to fix it.
When you were 16, back then, would you think every day about being trans? Would you think every day that you were female in the wrong body?
Well, I felt definitely different, and I had a lot of feminine characteristics and a lot of kind of feminine sort of focused thoughts, But I was also the captain of the rugby club.
Wow.
Because I was just like all the others.
All the ones in your study.
I've got to be a man.
You could have put yourself in your study from the sound of things.
Well, we all shared a lot of common experiences. It was really nice to see the nuance, sort of the individuality of everyone. Everybody's journey is different, but there are a lot of common experiences that I know that people, when they go and have a look at this, they go, oh, yeah, you know, I did that, or I've been like that. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. Grace, thanks so much for sharing your story and those other people's stories. It's been great. Let's make the world better for trans people day by day. You've been watching Ben TV. Thanks.
Thanks.